Our suicide choke we can hit from a few different positions. One really good way to hit is here from half guard. So my grips is going to be 4 fingers in, thumb inside. Me personally, I like to get the thumb inside first. So on this side here, and then push it across to open up a gap here. So it allows me to get 4 fingers inside. And I'm going to try and get my hands as close together as possible, right on top of each other. If they're quite wide like this, it's hard to squeeze his neck in the middle, okay? So my first grip, thumb in. My second grip, palm up, 4 fingers inside. This is the side I have to allow him to pass to. So if it's 4 fingers in, palm up, that's the side he's going to try and pass to, okay? Now, when I do look for this one, I can't have my arms straight like this. There's a good chance of him tucking his head and hiding his neck or weaving his arm inside here like this to defend it. So once I have got it, I'm going to try and hide this elbow a little bit to his chest. I don't want to threaten too early with it and put him off. I want to bait him to pass, okay? So my leg inside is effectively not going to work. Not only that, this leg here can come inside. There's a butterfly hook. So as I start to sweep the guy, or he thinks I'm sweeping, he starts passing. And I'm just going to feed my elbow, if we spin, my elbow through this gap here. So as he starts to walk around, my elbow comes through the gap. And there's a few ways I can finish it. So here from side control, I can bring it into my chest, keep forcing that through the gap and get the choke. Or I can go belly down. As I go belly down, I punch it up over my head. Continue to roll. He might even step over into mount. And then as he does, I pull it back in and finish from there. This is why we call it the suicide choke. If you do mess up, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So from half guard, thumb in, I'm going to allow him to pass this side. So this is 4 fingers in, palm up. My hands are close together, right on top of each other. And I'm going to hide this elbow a little bit. And I don't need to start looking for this choke right away. I want to entice him to start passing and walk into it. So my hook in the middle goes loose. I can even take it completely out. And this one is going to come in as a butterfly hook. And I start to look for my sweep. Now it's going to be a really weak elevation. So he's going to just pass. And then as he does, I just feed my elbow through the gap. If we spin, his elbow is coming through the gap here. And I can finish here. I'm going to bring it into my chest. Keep pushing that elbow through. Or I can punch it over my head, go belly down. As I get to here, I pull it back in towards my head and look for the finish. We've had guys fall asleep on this, the ref not even known that there's a submission going on. So thumb in, 4 fingers, palm up. I have my grip, I hide my elbow. I can start putting in my butterfly hook, passing him across. I pass the elbow through. If I punch it over, go belly down and pull it back in, I have my suicide choke. So from half guard, cross collar grip. Now this, I want to get as deep as possible. I don't want to be too threatening early on. So quite deep, but not really baiting for this. I'm not really like already trying to put it on here. And now I have the lapel on the same side. And it needs to be in my palm with my thumb up. If I reverse this grip, it's very hard to finish. So I have my cross grip and my lapel grip. Again, I want to try and break his posture. If I try and sit up and loop this around his neck, it's very hard. There's a long way to travel. So I want to try and break his posture a little bit. Sometimes this can be easier when I'm up on my elbow. And as I start hipping away, I'm going to drag a little bit. So now I have much better posture. His head is much lower and it's much easier to now loop this around. So as I loop, I drop back down. This can now come over his back to help keep his posture down. I can hug him into me, elbows into my chest, and I finish like a normal cross choke. Elbows in, I try not to flare my elbows too much. It can be quite effective, but it's not as strong. And try and finish here. So my cross collar grip, if we just rotate a little bit, like this, I have a good knee shield. My hand is palm up, controlling. We may have to play around with how far down we've got this. Later on in the choke, this might be quite loose. Here, you have to play around. So as I start coming up to my elbow, I'm going to start moving away and dragging. When his posture's broken, comes up and over. Tuck that in right against his neck, and the elbow stays down. And as I drop back down, my leg is gonna hold him into my guard. So if he tries to posture up now, it should be quite hard. I pull him into my chest, finish on my cross choke from the other side. Cross grip, have my lapel, good knee shield, preventing him from closing the distance. I build up to my elbow. He'll pop away as he follows, I drag, his head is down, and now I can loop it over. Leg comes up high, finish on the cross choke. So now we can hit the Canto Choke, made famous by Flavio Canto. He hit it a lot in judo, and there's loads of different positions we can hit it from. One really good one for Jiu Jitsu is here, butterfly guard. So the first grip, I'm here on this called a mirror side image, so if we turn, same side. So immediately it's not very threatening. With these cross collar chokes, usually he knows there's something coming. So this one is hidden quite well, okay? Now I want to break his posture. To do any sort of choke, he needs to be here, so I can find his neck a little bit better. So with my grip here like this, I'm going to use this, but I actually want him to post. I don't want to sweep him. So when I take his hand here like this, I'll actually put it on the floor. Not only that, my foot is going to kick his knee out. So now look, his posture's broken, and my head travels all the way over to this side. It makes it a lot easier to loop this under his chin. And now this leg can come over his head. Now if I can hook his forearm, even better. I don't necessarily have to if we just spin around. Kick the leg out, I've landed on my elbow, my head completely off to one side, and I hook over his head. If I can get under here, this is done. I can still finish it from here. As I finish, I'm pulling it up into his neck and my leg is heavy, and I just keep lifting my elbow. If I have his arm, I'm going to stretch that out as well, so it lifts him, and I'm lifting my elbow up and into the choke. So, same side grip, I have his wrist, his sleeve, I'm going to kick this leg out to break his posture, and I want him to base. And as I do it, I land on my elbow, and I can chuck this leg over, I can lift my hips up, hook that arm, stretch, finish off the choke. We may even roll and finish it from here. This side, I have my same side grip, my sleeve, my wrist, and I'm kicking this out. As I do it, I land to my elbow with my head right on the side here. If I stay in front like this, it's hard to loop under, so I have a good angle. Leg comes over. If I can hook that arm perfect, my arm's chopping up as I stretch my leg. If we do end up rolling, this is super nasty. One more from the other side. So collar, chop it out and land on my elbow. Finish on the Canto Choke. So now from butterfly guard, I'm going to look to get my cross collar grip. Now with most chokes from here, like we've covered a little bit already, I need to break his posture a little bit. So when I cross grip here like this, there's a few ways I can do it. My free hand can go to his head and I can pat it down. Now as I pat, it's important I loop this under his chin. If I leave it here, just pat down, I'm going to miss it. So I really loop. Now once from here, this hand stays and it continues under my own arm. So his head is now blocked. If I release this and he lifts his head, I lose the choke completely. So as I have my grip here like this, I pat, loop, and continue to push it under. And my hand comes out this gap here. This is going to help. It's going to keep pinning his head, keep pushing his head down into the choke, and lift the choking arm's elbow. And then as I finish, I lean to the side, keep pulling up on the choke. So from my cross collar grip, go as deep as you can. Play around with that. Sometimes too deep, it's very hard to loop. So usually about shoulder level actually. So my free hand is going to start patting. As I pat it down, I loop it under, push it, continue the hand through. And this elbow, this arm is heavy on the back of his head. If there's no pressure here, if I lift this elbow and he loops his head out, I lose the choke. So as I pat the head and push it under, this elbow is constantly forcing his head down. The hand comes all the way through, so we can wave, and it forces this elbow up. And then to put even more pressure on, rather than staying square, I start to lean. It's not uncommon from here that the guy will bail out, and we can use this as a sweep and even finish it on top. From the other side, cross collar grip. I need to break his posture. If he's not really giving me too much here, I can start baiting as I push in and he starts to drive back. We can loop. So as I pat the head, I keep my weight over, the hand goes under the elbow, constant pressure on the back of his head. So the hand is through, I can wave, it lifts the elbow, and I start to lean into it. If I can sweep from it as well, follow it up, I can even finish in mount. So from the closed guard, I'd always advise to try and pass first. Sometimes the guy's got a tough guard, it's hard to stand up to do any sort of pass. So there are a few tricks we can do to help that, like open his guard or to actually submit him. Okay, so the first one, the dick choke, because we're going to be a bit of a dick. Okay, so my two grips, thumbs down, and one is slightly higher than the other. So this one, on the far side, I'm going to pull back. This one should be able to punch over the top of it. Not only that, this, when I punch down to the floor, this collar is going to hide it. So rather than here, where he can start to fight this grip, exactly, I open this and I punch this through. I'm going to punch this hand down to the floor as I tripod up. No reaction from this guy, he's going to tap. But what we can use this for is to pass the guard as well. So my two grips, I'm thumb down. I can't start too high because I won't make it past his neck. I have to start quite low, so it's quite non-threatening at the beginning, okay? So as I jump up, when I do jump up, it's both feet at the same time. So I don't want to be nice and come up in installments. Instantly, I put all the pressure to his neck as I punch this hand to the floor with a closed fist and cover it with this one. So no tap. What's going to happen? Because my arm is extended, yeah, there is a slight risk to it. As I jump up like this, his reaction is to open his guard and attempt an arm bar. This is the perfect time just to bail out and start looking for our guard pass. So our two grips, thumb down, one is slightly lower than the other, enough to open it up. So as I jump up, this starts to punch immediately. Rather than here on the outside, I'm going to cover it. So now from closed guard, I'm going to use his lapel, and it's going to go over his shoulder. If I go under his shoulder, I have his arm to work against. So there's no need to feed it under like this. Okay, so from our grip here like this, I'm putting it over his shoulder. Now when I do that, again, like I can't be reaching. If I just leave my arm like this, it leaves it open to him, okay? So my arms are inside, controlling the biceps, and I move my whole body inside. Here and over the shoulder. Now this one comes behind the head, takes over with that grip. Thumb up, and now my free hand is going to go through the hole. I can make a fist. I know some guys like to use the blade of the wrist. If you use the knuckles, it's much nastier. So I go through the hole, find his neck, and again, it could be anywhere on the neck. If we get it right in the Adam's apple, cool. A little bit on the side. I like getting right in between, on the soft bit, right here between the Adam's apple and the vein, the massive vein right here. So, inside, I'm leaning forward, over the shoulder, behind the head, and punch in. Now, as I finish, this hand is gonna pulls it tight against the neck. My other hand is punching through to the mat. It could be here on this side, I could punch it all the way through to the far side, but as I pull here with my left, I'm stretching my arms through his neck into the mat. On the other side, so with my collar, over the shoulder, round the head, the grip is thumb up, and I go through the hole. As I pull with my left, I'm extending with my right, through his neck, into the mat. So over the shoulder, So from close guard, I'm going to use this guy's lapel against him to hit the triangle. Now when I get this lapel, I need to open my guard a little bit to take the slack out. Now if I open my guard, of course I'm giving him a chance to try and pin the leg, underhook, do whatever he wants. So whenever I open my guard, I'm going to go and control this sleeve, just to prevent him getting to this leg. So now when I get under here and I catch this lapel, I can take it out, it's a little bit safer. Now I just need to break his posture. So I use my legs, and I overhook this other arm. And now this lapel is free to pass over. And I want to try and get my foot in here, so I need to make space. I'm not particularly flexible, so I have to create some space. So I point my hip out. As I do that, I'm clamping his arm, so my leg comes up high and my elbow is clamped. So my foot is going to come inside. When it does, it needs to be nearer his armpit than my hand. So if I'm here like this won't move his body as much. If I make my grip and I put my foot here, now when I extend my leg, it creates much more space. So much space I can bring my leg out and chop it over the top. I can cross my feet, hips up, and finish the triangle as normal. So from here, control his sleeve, catch that lapel. I can open my guard and shake it out. I want as much slack as possible so it's easy to pass around behind him. So I break his posture, other side I've overhooked. So I'm clamping his arm. I can pass that lapel across. Once I've got here, I create a little bit of space. I start to hip out. I'm on my side. It's much easier to get this inside than it is if I was flat on my back. So I hip out. The foot comes inside. Me, I like to put my knee inside as well, so I'll open my elbow, bring my knee inside. It can be done like this. I just find it more comfortable. Again, like if I put my foot close to my hand, it won't move them as much. So from this grip, my foot comes inside. As close to the armpit as possible, the knee is inside, and I extend my leg up. If he's still using this hand, it's usually quite easy just to slap away to clear the space and bring the leg over, and then we can finish our triangles normal. On the other side, I have my lapel, I break his posture, pass it across, hip out, and I can start to clamp this arm a little bit. When I have the time, foot comes in, I like bring my knee and extend the arm away. It comes over, and we finish our triangle. So from close guard, cross collar grip, 4 fingers inside, as deep as possible. Now to get the space, I have to use my assisting hand. So this one's going to open, and this one feeds in. And my elbow is going to try and stay close to his chest. Too straight like this, there's too much gap. He can swim his head under, he can loop his arm inside. And now I have to break his posture. Not only break his posture and bring him towards me, but this shoulder towards me. So foot on the floor, and I'm going to use my other leg to bump him over. Now this shoulder is easier to get to. And however I get to, look, there's loads of slack here like this. This is usually the easiest way to get to it. So I grab this slack here and I bring my elbow over and chop it in. From here, now when we finish, it's important that I keep him close. So my legs are doing a lot of work as well. I'm not down here like this where it's easier for him to posture. I'm going to climb my legs up, and I finish by pulling him into my chest. So the finish comes from here, elbows in. It's really common that guys will get this, the grips are loose, and they start finishing with the elbows. And I've seen it work. It's just, it uses much more strength, and it's much easier to defend. So I have to bring him in, catch that slack, drop it, and finish it in close. So I have my cross grip in as deep as possible. So now when I post and I bump, I'm not only bringing him towards me, I'm bringing this shoulder over to this side. And now I can go and find the slack on here. I can go inside on the collar. Usually what you're going to find is if this is a deep grip and it's pulling tight, there's not much space here. There's nothing to say I couldn't go thumb inside on here and finish like this. It's just usually this is much easier to get. And when I do get it, it needs to be as close to his neck as possible. If I'm out here by his shoulder, there's too much space. So here, the elbow drops in, I walk up my legs and pull it into my chest, finishing with the elbows in close. So from a cross collar choke here like this, it's quite common for them to start reacting quite quickly and clamping arms and trying to stop things. So when they use this outside arm here like this, perfect. This is the elbow I'm going to go for. Now, sometimes I can just come across here, reach that elbow. Sometimes it's clamped and I can't quite get it. So I'm going to use my leg to bring it towards me. So I can just bring my foot on his hip, and that's all I need. Just a little bit of lift to bring his elbow towards me. And then I go and hook behind. And as I start to drag, I'm really going to punch this across. And I need to block it with my chest. So I can sit up, I can bring him towards me, but now his arm is trapped. So this gap is gone. So my legs are working, I'm pulling them in, and now this one is going to go and hug. It could be on his head, I could go and find his gi, and then to finish, this choking hand is just pulling in and lifting up. So off my first grip, if he starts to clamp on the outside here like this, I want to go find his elbow. If I can't quite reach it, I'm going to bring it towards me. Hook his elbow and drag it across. Now look, I can push it like this. I could even go to his sleeve and really punch it across like this. Bring him in and hug. It could be on his head, it could be on his shoulder, his gi, whatever you've got. And then start to pull through on this one. Full spin. So I have my cross collar grip and he starts to clamp on this side, killing this grip. So I bring his elbow towards me, shove his arm across. So I can keep pushing here on the elbow. I could block it, go to the wrist or the sleeve, keep punching across. If I know it's good, I can just hug behind. And this grip is going to continue to pull and lift. More. He blocks. So from side control, we're going to hit a choke. Now, our normal side control is perfect. I want to try and trap this arm as much as possible. Good shoulder pressure, and I want to hide my head as well. One, to stay close and have good shoulder pressure. Two, to hide what's going on here. So I'm going to use my own lapel on the far side and tuck it in my hand like this. I really want to hide it so that when it comes across here, he can't really see it. So rather than be quite obvious and leave my head start looking like this, hold it here where he can see it. I'm just going to cover it in the palm. So my head stays low. I start to take my gi and pass it across, right into this hand here. Thumb is up, and now I tuck this right against his neck. I can't finish the choke here while it's away, so I pull this back and it's tight against the neck. Now I want to walk to north-south. To do that, I want to block his hips. I don't want him to follow me, so this hand now goes to block his hips, and I walk north and south. Now, the more I rotate, the more this tightens up. So my head is going to travel to the floor. So I keep rotating. My head goes to the floor. To make it even more powerful, I'm going to step up. And as I step up and rotate, head to the floor, my arm is going to straighten out. This is going to tighten this up even more. So I rotate, straighten out my arm, and it tightens it up. If I get my head to the floor, it's even nastier. So side control, my head is low, I'm hiding what's going on here. I take my collar, get the tip of it right in the hand and hide it. So when it comes here, he doesn't know this collar is underneath. And I can pass it to this hand. As soon as it's here, tight against the neck. I don't want to finish it here with all this space. Pull it tight against the neck. I'm going to go and block his hips. I don't want him to follow me. If I start walking now, he travels with me. So I block. As I start to walk, I step. If you want to be super nasty, I'm going to tuck my knee right against his head and turn him into the choke as well. It's not always necessary. I can just post here and really drive in. So as my head drops to the floor, straighten out my arm. Some covering. I have the collar hidden. So from side control, I'm going to try and trap his arm with his own gi. So this is perfect for when someone's got a nice frame underneath, they're keeping their arms tucked in here like this. Okay, so I'm going to use his lapel. Lapel on the same side, it comes out over his arm. and I try and trap as much of the arm as possible. If I bunch this together and I just finish shallow over the elbows, he can usually get that out quite easy. So I can keep it quite wide, and I try and pin it over the wrist. So as this comes over, I can pass it to this hand. Usually in this hand, I'll try and get as much as possible, but now we've taken care of this arm. With this one, it actually doesn't matter if this comes out now. Once I've got this grip, I can deal with it. So it can stay here, it can come out. We'll deal with that in a second. This grip, palm up, and I want to try and get my hands as close together as possible. The closer I get my hands, the closer I can get my elbows. My hands are like this, I can't get my elbows together, I'm not going to choke. So when this comes over and I pass it, thumb up, this one slides inside. Hands are together, now I need my elbows together. So I go knees together, step. Now I'm much more in line with his head, and it's much easier to get my elbows together. The bottom one is lifting, the top one is chopping. So I drop my elbows together, I try and keep my head low and over the top of him, and finish on the choke. Sometimes guys lift with this and he ends up looping his head out or getting his arms inside. So from here, he's framing, he's keeping this arm safe. I'm going to use his lapel over the top and pass. My grip, thumb up. Now, if he does manage to bring this out, no problem. It actually gives us more space to go and find this grip. So this one is 4 fingers inside, thumb pointing up, and now I go knees together, step. When I step, this allows me to drive much more weight. So I go elbows together, keep my head over the top of him, lift his head into the choke. So into my little arm, over the top, try to cover as much of the arm as possible, and pass it across. Now my hand comes inside, 4 fingers inside, knees together and step, elbows together, and chop his head off. So continuing from our little arm, again, look, he's here framing like this. I take out his lapel, bring it over the top and pass to this hand again. Now this hand is coming through the hole. Again, it doesn't necessarily matter if this arm stays here or not. Once I've got this grip, it's almost done. So if this does come out, sometimes that's actually better, gives us a little bit more space. So the hand comes through the hole, right to the neck. Again, some people like using the blade like this, especially if they're tucking their chin and hiding their neck. I can chop it in a little bit more. The nastier version is to use your knuckles. So try and make a fist, get through to the neck, and again, just like the one from guard, this is pulling round, this is chopping. So my arm extends, I go through his neck, and both arms are working. One's not punching, one's not just pulling, they're both working together to punch it in. So from him staying safe, we wrap it, go to our little arm. Thumb up on the grip and I go through the hole. Find his neck, I start pulling around behind his neck and punching through here like this. If the arm comes out, even better, we have much more space. We can punch, pull, and extend. Again, from our little arm, when we trap this arm and pass it off here, this gives us a lot of options, okay? So now look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna back step slightly, like this, and now big step over. Now it's important, when I step here like this, I lift his head. What he might try and do is bump and try and get this leg over his head, like this, and I lose the position. So once I get here like this grip I have here, I'm really gonna pull up. So if he tries to bridge now and he can't get his head to the floor, it's very hard to do. If I don't have this grip, I've lost it or I've let go, I just go straight to the head. And now I have loads of space to now wrap the head. And it's important that when I wrap it, I bite his neck with my leg. So if I drop my knee over here and you can see this gap here, that's no good. I really want to wrap this. And we can start to finish our mounted triangle if we just spin around. So from the little arm, step, pull the head, and I wrap. Now, when I finish, I need to get this leg under here. So I don't have to roll and give up the position to do it. I can just grab my shin, lean my head to the floor. See how the space comes up underneath? Now I can tuck it in underneath, go back to mount and finish as normal. I can clear the arm, I can finish on the arm, whatever you want. So we spin. My little arm position, I'm wrapping, and now I'm going to step over. If I stay square like this, it's very hard to lift this leg, so I can turn my hips slightly, little back step, and then bring it over. I'm going to lift his head off the floor. It could be with this grip, it could be with my hands, and I wrap. Hold my shin, head goes to the floor. I don't need to roll off. I lift a little bit of space and tuck in underneath on the triangle. Here I can finish on the arm, on the triangle. We spin. So I'm wrapping. Turn my hips, step, lift the head, wrap the neck, and I go right to that shin. Head leans, the foot can come off the floor, and I finish by locking up the triangle, coming back to mount. So from side control, I'm going to use this guy's arm against him. Now, I need this underneath me, so I can bait him for it. So I'm going to walk to north and south, and I want to take this arm with me. So I can go from side, scarf, and step. Now this isn't very comfortable for him. When his arm's dragged across like this is no good. He can't use it, it's uncomfortable, it hurts the shoulder. So I want to give him just enough space to drag it back out. So when I step here like this, here, I allow him to bring this arm out. And if we just rotate, he's now brought this arm out, and I can wrap and hook. 4 fingers inside on that collar. Once I've got that collar, I'm going to travel back around and put as much weight on it as possible. So I have this grip, and some guys like to drive their weight. Some guys like to stay on the knees. Completely up to you. This is a strong grip. If he tries to turn away from me, he can't. If he tries to turn in towards, there's not really much he can do. I've got a lot of weight on this shoulder. And now my free hand is going to go and find this collar. Thumb inside, so that I can turn my thumb up and my elbow drops. And now I just hit elbow to the floor. Now when I finish, I'm not going to finish square. I want to turn all my weight into his neck. So my knees are off the floor, I turn my hip and shoulder in, and then start to finish with the forearm. If he turns his head, this can be quite a slow choke, but if you have this grip, you'll get it. Just flare your elbow open, keep it on, and you'll get it. If he stays square and it's right across the throat, this is nasty. So from side control, I switch, I take this arm with me and block the hips. I allow him to drag his arm out, and then I can wrap. And now I have this collar. Once I have it, I start to walk back, and I can take this collar, thumb inside. Now, I can go straight to his collar, or I can start underneath and bring it over. What's really common here is he'll hide his neck, he'll put his chin down, so I can use my knee to drive his head back down, and now drop on the elbow. It's important when I do finish on this one, I'm not going to stay flat and start looking towards him. I turn my hip and shoulder into the choke and have loads of pressure from there. So one more. Switch, I take his arm, block the hips as he drags his arm out. I'm going to wrap, take that collar, and I start to walk. Thumb inside, I drop the elbow, turn my hip and shoulder, finish on the choke. So when we're in deep half, this is a tricky position. If Adam does a good job here and he keeps me off balance, eventually I'm going to get swept. So it's important that I threaten a lot at the same time that he's looking to sweep. Of course, I'm always going to look to pass as well. I can start forcing the head down, sitting to the opposite side. If I can threaten with a submission at the same time, it's going to nullify his attacks as well. So from here, it's important I have good base. I'm sitting on my heel here like this. I always need to start moving, and I want to start controlling his legs. If he can't move his hips too much, he's going to have a hard time sweeping. So whichever leg you want, doesn't matter, but if he's trying to move his legs this way to gain momentum, if he's trying to go that way, then I can try and keep him compact here. Now this hand is going to do the choking. So in between you and him, through here. 4 fingers inside, just below shoulder line. Just enough where I can loop here and tuck. Now it's important my elbow stays in my pocket. The more I lift this here, he's going to roll his head out. So my grip comes in, I loop my elbow, I tuck it under the chin and tuck it here. Now, it doesn't matter which way I fall. I'll actually turn and sit to my butt. I have this grip. If he tries to turn, I can keep it. And now I can just lean back, finish on this grip by pulling around. It's like I said, it's really important this elbow stays tucked. If I start to lean back on it, lift my elbow, I lose that choke. So here, on top, underneath, from deep half, I control. Could be either one like this. He's trying to swing his hips. I have control, and I have my grip. 4 fingers inside, and I loop it around. This is particularly good when he's really trying to sweep and his neck becomes exposed a little bit here like this. I have my grip and loop it around. So I tuck my elbow, I sit to my butt, I keep pulling hard on here so he can't run away, and my elbow keeps pulling around. So he's going to start moving. I want to take the range of motion out, I try and keep it here. Hand comes inside, 4 fingers inside, loop it, tuck the elbow. We can sit to our butt. Elbow is tucked. If he starts to move here, if he tries to rotate out, I have his legs and the choke is on.